Welcome to the Pizza Buffet, powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook here on the Hammer Betting Network. It's Super Bowl Sunday. We're live on the Forward Progress channel on YouTube and the Forward Progress Twitter account. If you are watching on Twitter, that's great. If you do want to get into the conversation, hop over to the YouTube channel, Forward Progress, as I do see the comments in real time, and I can answer questions in real time. Normally, when I do this show, I run through the card, top to bottom, rotation number order. I lock in any bets that are still worth making. Obviously, it's the final game of the year. It's Super Bowl Sunday. I don't have an opinion on the side or total. I'll walk through the entire game and give my subjective analysis on it. But then I'm going to open up Pinnacle Sportsbook today. We're going to go through the props offering. I'm going to look at what I think still has value. And for those of you in Ontario, definitely you should be betting at Pinnacle. They are the world's sharpest sportsbook, available to all Ontario bettors. Find out what pro bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus in Ontario. Please play responsibly. Not available for those in the US, but I will run through Pinnacle. You'll see why I play there. A lot of great lines, low vig. So definitely a sportsbook offering that's worth it. Comments already getting to me this morning. Okay. So Super Bowl Sunday, Pinnacle Sportsbook. Dealing minus 116 plus 105 on the Eagles and Chiefs. This is the best price in market on the Philadelphia Eagles here. Pinnacle taking a pretty big pop as of this morning on the Super Bowl. Spread is 1. If we want to take a look at some alternate spreads here, depending on whether you like the Chiefs or the Eagles, you could consider selling points. I heard Captain Jack talk about this on the Unabated stream last night, but selling the Eagles to minus 2.5 so that he could get them at plus money. Don't hate that idea. Same thing with the Chiefs. Could easily sell the Chiefs to minus 2.5 plus 128, which would be a very good price. Total of the game is 51. So my raw numbers on the game, just so everyone knows where I stand, I make the Eagles just under a 1.7 point favorite. I make the total just above 50. So my leans are to the Eagles and to the under in this game. If this were a regular season game and I was doing the Pizza Buffet and I was going top to bottom, rotation number order, I would never lock in a play in this game. And it's the Super Bowl. Totally understandable if you want to bet on the Super Bowl. Completely get it. One day a year, you get together with all your friends, party, so on and so forth. I read that actually 1.45 billion wings will be consumed in the United States today. 1.45 billion chicken wings. But anyways, I digress. I get it. You want to bet on the game, so you want my opinion. Just know that personally, I have not wagered on either team. I don't want to give you advice in terms of like, oh, go out and bet this team because I think the Eagles are going to win the game, personally. I think there's a lot of talking points here, right? But the big one in support of the Chiefs is that the Eagles have largely played nobody this season. And that's true. If we look at Philadelphia's schedule, their hardest regular season games were weeks 1 and 2. Detroit, Minnesota. Detroit didn't end up making the playoffs. Minnesota got routed in the playoffs because they're a fraud. They played 2 games against Dallas. One was against Cooper Rush. The other, Jalen Hurts was out, was Gardner Minshew in there. Then you get to the playoffs. They get the easiest opponent in the Giants after their bye week. They finally get a quality team in San Fran, and Brock Purdy gets injured early in that game. So I think it's right and fair to challenge the fact that the Eagles have potentially built up this resume of beating bad teams. But there's a difference between what the Minnesota Vikings did this year and the Philadelphia Eagles did this year. With Minnesota winning all these close games, Minnesota having these win probabilities of like 20% in the fourth quarter and beating bad teams, whereas the Eagles have just been steamrolling teams. And we've seen it through the playoffs. So you can't control who you play. Philadelphia doesn't control who they're scheduled against, but they can control how they play. And for the most part this year, they've done a very good job of disposing of other teams, beating them down. Now, Obviously, this is an important thing that Anthony mentions here. Please make everyone aware a certain Ben is on Philadelphia money line. It is unfortunate when we do have Ben the bettor on that type of side, and that might be enough for me to lay off the game entirely if I was even a recreational neutral who wanted to bet the Eagles. But personally, I like this matchup. I think the Eagles are just a very complete team, regardless of who they've played or not. They have the best offensive line in the league. They have 2 number 1 wide receivers. Quez Watkins, a good third receiver. Dallas Goedert is probably the most underrated tight end in the league in that he can do it all. One of the more underrated players in the entire league. The backfield, it's not the greatest. I don't really care about the backfield a whole lot for most teams in the league. Defensively, the depth in their 7 on the defensive line, especially Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave as starters. And then you can start to mix in guys like Robert Quinn and Jordan Davis, who helps against the run, Damakung Suh, Linval Joseph. They've built up a defensive line that's extremely formidable. And the Chiefs' O-line is certainly better than it's been in a while, better than years ago. But I still think this is a mismatch pretty much against any opponent. The Eagles registered 70 sacks this year. 70. The next highest team was 55, which was actually Kansas City. There's a big drop-off between what they've built in the front 7 and everywhere else. Corner, deep. James Bradbury, Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Good safeties. Reed Blankenship's had a good year. Linebacking core, a little bit more vulnerable. They have Hassan Reddick rushing from the outside. TJ Edwards has had a solid year, but that's probably where you're going to want to attack. And that's why a lot of people like Travis Kelce in this game overall. I think the Eagles have found the recipe, which is Jalen Hurts, rookie deal. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts is somewhere between an average to above average quarterback, not elite. I think he's propped up a lot by what's around him. And by the way, I'm not trying to diminish him in any way, but they found that guy who can get it done and surrounded him with elite talent. And on the other side of things, the Chiefs, to me, I think there's a lot to be desired outside of Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is amazing. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen play in my life. I'm a Patrick Mahomes stan. I'm not going to accept any Mahomes slander. I would not be surprised if he totally won the game on his own. It can happen. But he doesn't have the same help at receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster's fine. Kadarius Toney's coming in. Listen, you're dealing with injuries coming into the Super Bowl. You're obviously going to play. Nothing in terms of the final injury report for the Kansas City Chiefs. But you have to be somewhat concerned about Toney's ability in this game or re-aggravating an injury. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a number 2. Downfield threat, sure. But this is, in my opinion, a below-average receiving core with Mecole Hardman on IR. You have Travis Kelce, great. Offensive line, solid for the most part. Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney. Orlando Brown's not the same left tackle that he once was, but overall, decent. On defense, though, there's some gaps in personnel overall. You have an all-pro in Chris Jones. You have some other good defensive linemen. And in a way, the Chiefs have done a lot of what the Eagles have done. Like you can rotate a guy in like Carlos Dunlap, for example. But linebacking core, I think they have some issues. Outside of Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed, I think that they have some issues at corner as well, and they can beat over the top. I expect this to be a good game, but ultimately I think the Eagles are just a little bit better everywhere. In terms of the narratives or the talking points around the game, injuries to both quarterbacks. So everything we've seen from Mahomes this week is that, the Adam Schefter tweet was like kind of cringeworthy, and that he's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, everything we've seen is him excelling in practice this week. Okay, sure. He's still a few weeks, 3 weeks removed from I'm horrible with my dates, from a high ankle sprain. I don't think it's a big deal in this game. There's a lot of people talking about the Jalen Hurts shoulder injury. struggled with the deep ball a little bit against the 49ers. I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts has to have some sort of offseason surgery, but he's had 2 weeks off to prep for this game. I think that these are probably non-factors that, we have to question them because they're there. But ultimately, these teams are relatively healthy going into this game, in my mind. Where I think that the Eagles potentially have a hidden edge is that, you see a lot of the more generic NFL analysis out there, right? Every week, where it's like, especially Super Bowl, let's compare who has the better quarterback, check mark KC. Who has the better wide receivers, check mark Eagles, right? And you go down the list. I kind of did a little bit off the top today as well. But then you get to head coach every time, and you get this check mark next to Andy Reid, because Andy Reid has had a very successful, long career in the NFL. And he's won pretty regularly, and I think he's widely considered a great coach. I think Nick Sirianni, first of all, don't get me into Brian Daboll winning the coach of the year. I think that was a joke. And this is someone who thinks very highly of Brian Daboll, but the Giants basically won with smoke and mirrors all year. I don't think that they were anything special. Got rocked in the playoffs. The playoffs doesn't factor into that. But holy geez, the recency bias on what happened with the Eagles when Jalen Hurts got injured this year and how they faltered down the stretch. Nick Sirianni does a very good job of managing the team in game. And a lot of today is going to come to, when you have teams that are this tight, right? This close. Spread is 1 in the game. Money line is sitting on Eagles minus 116. Who would you rather have making decisions on the sideline in this game? I'm saying that forget about, I know Andy Reid off the bye, great coach. How many times has Andy Reid made horrendous in-game decisions this year? I like Sirianni's aggressiveness against this team. I really do. I think that's a factor that works in their favor. I think it's a little bit of a hidden edge. I've talked to Eric Eager from Sumer Sports about this all year, which is Sirianni's decision-making and how much that's contributed to win expectancy for the Eagles over the course of the season. I think it's a little bit more even in the coaching department than people would realize. You're going to get to a point in every game where you're going to yell at Andy Reid while watching the game, whether that's how they do the 2-minute drill in the first half or the second half, or the way that he uses timeouts, or not going forward on a very obvious 4th down and punting the ball. You're going to get that. You very, very, very rarely have that with Sirianni. So a little bit of I don't want to say hidden edge, because I don't want to make it seem like Sirianni's a better coach than Reid. It's not what I'm suggesting, but I do think that he might do some things in game that kind of impact the game a little bit more in a positive favor for the Eagles. I think this is a fair assessment. Andy Reid off the bye, advantage during the game, Sirianni advantage. All right. So that's the breakdown of the full game. Could go on and on and on, but I don't want to spend an hour talking about a game that I haven't bet from a sides or totals perspective. I'm going to walk through the props for this game overall. I'm going to showcase Pinnacle Sportsbook a little bit here because they do have some really good odds. And frankly, I've been using Pinnacle for a long time and highly would suggest people use them. If you're in Ontario, obviously not an option if you're in the US, but a lot of what I'll apply or what I say here can be applied to other sportsbooks as well, if that's easier for you. Okay, so let's get to it. In terms of first half, alternate lines, these are all basically derivatives of the full game line, which I don't love. So I'm just going to bypass that. Some people want to, am I making a first quarter bet? I think we can maybe talk about this a little bit, just in traditionally that the first quarter of the games have been a little bit more lower scoring. A lot of these Super Bowls involve Tom Brady. I don't know if it's a Tom Brady thing or if it's just general nerves, but I do know a lot of sharp people who have bet the under in the first quarter for many Super Bowls, and they continue to do that as they think that there's some sort of built-in edge there. You can bet team totals on the teams as well. I'm not so convinced on that for this particular Super Bowl. Similarly, some people like the third quarter stuff where, I mean, you can see over 9.5 is minus 167, but typically in the Super Bowl, teams come out of this break that they have, and there's a lot more scoring in the second half. So, yeah. Not going to cover it too much, but there's that. Ryan says the limits are insane at Pinnacle. They sure are. You do not have a problem with getting limited at Pinnacle, and you can repop your bets, which is nice. Let's go through the alternative markets. AJ Brown. So I mentioned AJ Brown probably in a few spots that I talked about earlier this week, where his number's been adjusted up a little bit. So typically speaking, a lot of you who've been watching my content here on Forward Progress over the majority of the week know that I've been an advocate of you bet overs earlier on. Super Bowl Sunday, leading up to game time, that's your best chance to bet unders. So the reason why, this is not a regular game. There's a lot of money that is just drawn into this game from different markets, more recreational market. People who are just depositing $100 because they want to have a good experience, enjoy the game a little bit more. Obviously, all that flood of money on a regular season game doesn't happen. For the Super Bowl, it does. Typically, the recreational bettor is going to be cheering for overs and betting overs. There's not too many people that are coming into the sportsbook and saying, oh, I'm going to bet the unders on all these players. That's going to be my rooting interest for today. No, that would be extremely painful for a lot of people overall. So for the most part, you're going to find value on the unders towards game time. So just want to make that clear. AJ Brown is one of the few receivers. Now, this is right on the range of what I would play him at, but he's someone that I really like in this matchup today. And I think we've kind of forgotten about AJ Brown because he hasn't had to do anything in the playoffs. The Eagles have basically gotten into two games where the 49ers game took more, a longer time to become a blowout, but we've gotten into a situation now where AJ Brown is just underimpressed. The last 6 games of the regular season, AJ Brown had 70 more yards in all 6 of those games. He had at least 8 targets in all of those games. He is kind of a matchup-proof receiver in a sense. And yes, the Chiefs have corners that can, go toe-to-toe with him. But this is a little bit of a low number, in my opinion. I wouldn't go nuts with this one, but it's a little bit low. Other than that, not much else that I see from AJ Brown in this game in particular. This Boston Scott one is interesting, or Boston Scott as a whole is interesting. The reason why, and listen, this is not rocket science either. Oftentimes, you'll have sports books in market that are off market, so to speak, and are just dealing vastly different numbers. Boston Scott has gotten a lot of rushing attempts in the last couple weeks in garbage time, so to speak, when the game has been out of reach. But I think that's a narrative that's been built as well and hasn't been exclusively the case all year. They have worked him in on different drives over the course of the year, whether that was against Tennessee in the regular season, the Giants towards the end of the season. If we do look at, let's say, since the midway point onwards, where the Eagles narrowly beat the Colts, he's had 3 or more attempts in all but one game, which was the second last game of the season against New Orleans. Now, this is a Super Bowl. It's an important game. You want to ride guys like Miles Sanders a little bit more than Boston Scott. But I don't hate the price on the over 3.5 attempts here. You can find better in market. So you can go to a BetMGM or 365 and find over 2.5 in the range of plus 135, plus 140. And I do like that a lot better. Obviously, just doing the math conversion makes a whole lot more sense to only need 3 carries to win instead of 4 at a similar price. But I think the likelihood that we see 3 carries from Boston Scott is much closer to 50% than the odds would imply on that. So that's kind of one that stands out to me in terms of an over as well. Let's see what else we got going here. Okay. Chiefs comparison props. So this is one that I like. Will the Chiefs have a made fourth down conversion? I like the no at plus 139. Remember, this is not only do the Chiefs have to go for the fourth down, they have to make it. This is 2 weeks for the Eagles to prepare for the Chiefs' fourth down stuff. I've watched a bunch of Chiefs games in the past week. If I can figure out what they're going to do on fourth down, I think maybe there's a likelihood the Eagles can as well. They do this thing where they just kind of immediately roll Mahomes to the right, and he has a couple of targets quickly to his right. Maybe it's a Super Bowl. Maybe they switch it up. They use it against the Eagles. But first and foremost, they have to go for it on fourth down, which they've gone for it 12 times this year on fourth down. One of the reasons why, they're very good at converting third down. Like, they're very good at not getting to a fourth down. They're very good at not getting to a fourth down. But now they have to convert it on top of that. I'd estimate that they probably have around a 70% clip, or 2/3, maybe 66.7% against this defense. I think anything in this price range, 130 or higher, is a good bet for the no on this game as of now. For anyone asking in the chat, it's under Chiefs comparison props. Let's see what else we got here. Anything that pops out to me. Will Chiefs score every quarter? I haven't really priced those to be too far off of market. This was an interesting one. Total Chiefs to have a reception, because the Chiefs do spread it around, right? Like, a lot of you'll see the difference between the Chiefs players and the Eagles players. I think the Eagles is priced at 5.5 and the Chiefs are at 8.5. Obviously, you get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back. So you have 3 running backs that are, I think, likely to have a reception: Pacheco, McKinnon, Edwards-Helaire. You have Travis Kelce already in 4. Noah Gray is kind of a toss-up, but I lean to yes. 5, Juju, MVS, Kadarius Toney, and then you basically need a Justin Watson or a Sky Moore reception as well. That's a tough one. Minus 110 both ways, or minus 109, minus 111. Pretty decent. Same deal with like the rush attempt. You're going to get 3. You're going to get 1 from Mahomes. You're going to get 3 from the running back. And then it's like, are they going to mix in some other tricky play? All likelihood, yes. Nothing else that stands out to me on the Chiefs props. I won't go through every market here because there's some players that I just don't have a lot of exposure to. Dallas Goedert is one that I'll probably be targeting for under receiving yards, but like not right now. I'll just wait it out. There's not really a ton of risk here. So I love Goddard. A little bit high for my liking, that number overall. So I'll wait till last minute there and target that before game time. Devontae Smith, nothing from my end. I had John Legeza on for Progress earlier this week, the Super Bowl props edition. He liked some alternate overs on Devontae Smith. Just saying that there's been a lot of boom games for him this year. Kind of really agree with that, but nothing on his regular props. Like, look at the Eagles numbers, fourth down conversion compared to the Chiefs. That's because they go for it so much more than the Chiefs do, especially on their own side of the field. And they run that quarterback sneak a lot. So there's that. And it's 6.5 players for the Eagles reception, but juiced heavily to the under, which makes total sense. Like, the Eagles just do not distribute it as much as the Chiefs do. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, all likely to get a catch. Dallas Goedert, all likely to get a catch. Then in the receiving core, it's honestly like probably not anyone else. Maybe Zach Pascal. Their backup tight end is Jack Stoll. Unlikely. So you got those 4 guys. And then Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. You need all of them to get a reception. I don't know that they all get enough in the game to get that type of reception either. So nothing from that point of view. I mean, if this was any other quarterback, the over 2.5 sacks would look like an absolute gift at minus 135 with the way that the Eagles get home. I might end up regretting that, but Mahomes is not a guy that takes sacks. He does throw the ball away. He tries to make something happen. That'll lead me into another prop that I'll talk about afterwards, but as I work through these markets. But field goals, going to skip. Halftime, full-time, going to skip. Halves, I'm going to skip. I'm going to go right here to Jalen Hurts props because there's a few things that I like with Jalen Hurts. So I'm typically not a guy who plays like these first pass of the game will be complete, incomplete. I don't have a great way to price that. It's very subjective, I think. But they're obviously available here, tons available to bet. Will Jalen Hurts score a touchdown? So I talked about this earlier this week. I priced this at minus 125. It's moved a little bit. I still like the yes a little bit here. Jalen Hurts, I think the market's been very slow to adjust to these prices, really, honestly, for a long time. And it's Super Bowl week. A lot of people have bet this already, so it's been adjusted up. I still think it's a little bit low. Consider the fact that against San Francisco, the 49ers ran a quarterback sneak with Jalen Hurts from the 2-yard line to set up a quarterback sneak from the 1-yard line. They're not messing around. They're going for high probability plays here with Jalen Hurts in the sneak game. So if they do get down towards the goal line, anywhere inside the 5, I think the likelihood of him scoring a touchdown is super high. But you also have the added bonus of just him being a prolific runner at other times as well. I mean, they utilize him so heavily in the running game. I think this is a short price. So I would go anywhere. I would go up to minus 120 here or so. And obviously, you're just going to decrease your risk as this number goes up. But I think that one's a short price. Interceptions. So there's two. I think that this is a decent price on the over half an interception. And I'm going to say the same thing for Mahomes, but you can honestly, we'll line shop just via Pinnacle here and compare. But you can either use you could bet both quarterbacks to throw an interception. Jalen Hurts will be plus money. Mahomes, I'll get to the updated odds in a second, but he'll be in the minus 120 range. So the reason I like this is because you have two teams that excel at generating pressure. And typically, you generate pressure, quarterbacks make mistakes, they have less time to process down the field. Stuff gets batted at the line of scrimmage, up into the air. There's just so many more things that can happen that benefit the defense when the opposing team is getting pressure. So either you take a route where you bet both Mahomes and Hurts to throw an interception, or you can take the combined interceptions over 1.5, which I think might be a better bet. Either of these quarterbacks could have a multi-interception game in them with the amount of pressure that the opposing defenses are able to put on the quarterback. So maybe not this one in particular, but we'll get to the combined overs. Jalen Hurts long pass completion. I had Andy Molitor from the Deep Dive podcast on Forward Progress on Wednesday on the Super Bowl prop extravaganza. He liked the under here at 37.5. He gave it out at minus 115. This is not much different. It hasn't moved a whole lot, but there is some speculation or thought from people that Jalen Hurts' shoulder, someone did mention in the chat that he has a surgery scheduled for after the year, that he just doesn't have this in him, the downfield shot. I don't know how much I buy it, but I'm just relaying that I do know a lot of people who bet this prop under 37.5. And when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about people who generally win. So if you did want a tail and you thought that there was something there, I think that there's one there. Jalen Hurts' longest rush in the game. So I really wish Pinnacle would move off the 12.5 here to like a 13.5, minus 120, minus 115. This is one you can definitely shop around. But if you are getting the 13.5 long rush, I mean, DraftKings minus 110, BetMGM minus 110. I would rather take the minus 110 with the one extra yard than pay 48 cents more for the 12.5. But I do like the over on this as well. Again, final game on the line. I think that this is a good number, a good over bet, with the amount that I expect Jalen Hurts to be involved in the running game today. Not much for me on passing yards, attempts, completions. I don't want to tie too many of the props into I think one of the mistakes that people make on Super Bowl Sunday is that they think one team is going to win and they just tie all of the same props to that same game outcome, right? Which you kind of have to do in a way, but it's super risky. It's very boom or bust, right? And then you basically have imagine betting the Rams Patriots Super Bowl where you love the over in the game. So now you're taking all these player receptions over, all these guys to score a touchdown. The game ends 13-3 and you're living off ramen noodles for the next 3 months because you just lost all the prop bets and you never thought that was possible. So just be aware of that. Bet responsibly today on Super Bowl Sunday. I think that's it from a Jalen Hurts perspective. So a lot there to unpack. I think I did that in a way that everyone can understand. Jerick McKinnon. Okay. So I've been talking about Jerick McKinnon's receiving yards over. I've played some 19.5. I've played some 20.5. I still think that the 22.5 is good. So I'm going to stop really quickly on Pinnacle here. And I'm going to open up betstamp just for 1 second. Hopefully I got the right screen. Here we go. All right. So really quickly with betstamp, I'm going to go back to, this would have been 2 weeks ago. Conference Championships 29th. Chiefs Bengals. And Jerick McKinnon receiving yards, pretty much across the board, 28.5 consensus number. Pinnacle was 28.5 where it closed. Obviously, you get a few off-market prices here and there, but 28.5 receiving yards. KC, Cincy. Let's go back to the week prior. Chiefs and Jags. McKinnon receiving yards, 33.5 is the lowest number you're going to find. Now, this isn't apples to apples, people. Yeah, I get it. The Eagles have a better defense than the Jags did. 100%. I'm not suggesting that this is apples to apples. But for the most part, we have seen a lot of McKinnon priced in this range, upper 20s, low 30s, mid 30s for the latter half of the year. Couple things have changed. Quality of the Eagles defense, for one, which I actually think makes the Chiefs more likely to dump it off to the running back. And number two, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is activated off IR. I don't know how he's going to fit into the game plan. I don't know. But I think this number is too low for where we have seen McKinnon. And this is basically recency bias, in my opinion. He had no targets against the Jags in this 27-20 game. By the way, Mahomes in and out, disaster of a game. I don't think you can even really learn anything from this specific game in particular. And last week or 2 weeks ago, conference championship against the Bengals, 4 targets. He only picks up 17 yards. Pretty unusual. From a yards per target standpoint, that's well below his season average. It's well below the average running backs average. So overall, I think that there's just been too much of an adjustment here. And when I said that, I think that the Eagles defense helps the running backs. You have less time to throw as a quarterback, less time to process down the field. A couple things happen. One, you call more screenplays as a coaching staff. So I think that there's at least a couple design screens here for Jerick McKinnon, who's heavily utilized in the passing game when he's on the field. And number two, you have to just get the ball out of your hands quickly. So what do? You look to the running back in the flat a lot of times. I think this number is low. Isaiah Pacheco has been adjusted up a lot. in recent weeks. Had a huge performance in the passing game against the Bengals. I think 49 yards, 6 catches, 49 yards. But I still think this number is low for McKinnon. Rushing attempts for McKinnon's a different story. I don't hate the under 4.5 at plus money. Much prefer an under 5.5 in like the minus 115 range. That's been bet a little bit by sharps this week. Kind of, it's on the fence now, but I don't expect McKinnon to be heavily utilized in the running game. Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire. I mean, Andy Reid loves his Clyde Edwards-Helaire handoffs as well. So McKinnon in the rushing game is like a sell for me. McKinnon in the passing game is a big-time buy, especially in a game state where the Eagles get up ahead. Could see McKinnon in there a lot. Juju Smith-Schuster didn't play anything here, I don't believe. Nothing that stands out to me. Kadarius Toney. Hitman was on this week, and Kanish was on this week. And they both were targeting some Kadarius Toney props. So this is a different number. You can see the market influence that Hitman has on props, which is quite substantial, as he gave out the over 23.5 at the time. It was reposted at 25.5. It's since been bet up even more. Kanish went with first catch of the game. Chiefs' first reception. Kadarius Toney at plus 800. Not offered here, but that was one that he gave out. A lot of people that I know and respect are high on Kadarius Toney receptions today. I have a little bit of concerns about backing somebody that is, coming in at not 100% in all likelihood, but that's just me. That's it. I'll keep going through here. I do see the comments in real time. Everyone, if you do want to ask me about a specific prop, specific player you're high on, low on, I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can over the course of the show. I might wrap them up through it in there at the end, but I'll try to get to as many as I can. So if you do have any questions, no problem. If you're on Twitter, I don't see the questions or comments in real time. Hop on over to YouTube. It's the Forward Progress YouTube channel. You can watch us live, join the chat as well. And if you enjoy what I'm doing here and you're finding value in it, make sure you hit that like button, smash that thumbs up. You might have to hide the chat on YouTube to do that, but it goes a long way to helping other people find this content. The more people that can find this content, the more that I can do. It's cyclical. So smash that like, subscribe to the Forward Progress channel if you haven't done so already. Okay. Kenneth Gainwell. I'm bringing up Kenneth Gainwell not because I have an opinion. I honestly have zero opinion on the way that the Eagles are going to utilize their backfield. I don't know. I honestly don't really know with either team, other than I think I could take some educated guesses. The Eagles have such a wide range in what this could be, which is why I kind of like that Boston Scott over 2.5 carries, plus 135 range. But because variance, give me the plus 135. Sure, he could easily get 3 carries. I have no idea what's going to happen with Kenneth Gainwell today, but he's got to be like the most polarizing player for the Super Bowl, in that there's so many people betting his over, so many people betting his under. It's all over the place. I don't know. I mean, subjectively, these numbers look a little bit high to me for Kenneth Gainwell, but maybe he's a part of the game plan in some way that I don't know. I'm just very fascinated to see how that breaks down. Kicker props, didn't touch a bunch of kicker props. I mean, this is a valuable bet. I'll tell you right now. It's what I call a suitcase bet as well, where it's like, okay, pack your suitcases, because if this one loses, you're like, you're on a plane to Greece or something tomorrow to avoid the bookie. But PAT or field goal hits the crossbar or goalpost, minus 570. Just going to do a quick, in your head, think of the chances that, what percentage chance do you give of a kick hitting the crossbar on an extra point at any point in the game? Think about that in your head. Minus 570 is the equivalent of 85%. 85% on the no. That's wrong. Like, that's off. There's no way that no is only 85%. 90 or higher, bare minimum. Now, again, I'm not telling you go put everything you have on this or whatever. Bet within your limits and your risk tolerance. If you don't want your Super Bowl to be ruined because Harrison Butker drills one off the upright, then don't do it. But there is value in that number. I'm very, very confident that there's value in that number. Specific quarters for field goals, stuff like that, no. Total field goals, I don't hate the over 1.5 for Butker. And again, this just goes back to the reluctance of Reed to go for it on fourth downs. But the Chiefs are a very good red zone offense as well. I'm probably passing on all these kicker props. The Jake Elliott's got bet up from earlier this week. I think he was like originally 6.5, minus 110 both ways, if I recall correctly. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I looked at that last week and it was 6.5. Jesus, that's sweaty every time a kicker steps on the field. Sure, you're first of all, this is part of the point, though, Hef. The Hef for I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Like, you need kicks for this to happen. It's not just like a foregone conclusion that you're going to get a ton of kicks in the game as well. But yeah, this is it is a sweaty one. I look forward to a field goal hitting the upright and then someone cropping video of this and calling me an idiot. That would be range of probabilities, people. Probabilistically speaking, I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just talking about probabilities. Interesting that they have Marcus Kemp props. I'm going to skip over MVS and Miles Sanders. I know Suma liked the over on Miles Sanders rushing yardage. What's the total rushing yards? 60.5. I'm indifferent on Miles Sanders. I think that that's right around where I expected him to be. Mahomes. Okay, we could get into a bunch of stuff for Mahomes here. Again, probabilistically speaking, okay? What will happen first for Mahomes? Throw a touchdown pass or throw an interception? I think this is a very good price on plus 284, throw an interception. That's not, listen, he could go through the whole game and not throw an interception, whatever. But we know, typically speaking, Super Bowls, it takes a little bit of time for the quarterbacks to get going. Pass rush is going to be there, I think, for the Eagles a lot today. And Mahomes is the type of guy that, like, I love Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be a ton of times in this game where it's going to look like he's bottled up, he's got nothing, and he's going to shovel a pass or flip something behind his back or do something crazy that's going to result in a positive play for KC that no other quarterback is ever doing. And that will work. But there's also times where he is going to force it. He's a very aggressive quarterback. Trust in his abilities. I think that that's a fine prop. Plus 284. Just so everybody knows as well, should have mentioned this earlier. But the only reason I'm not tracking all of these in betstamp like I typically do under the Rob Pizzola account is that account was created to try to beat the Pinnacle market, major markets, sides, totals on games where they're literally taking hundreds of thousands of dollars when I'm putting those bets in as like a experiment, so to speak. I don't want to pollute this and like try to bump the record with smaller scale props, just so everyone's aware on that. I think that would be not in the spirit of why I'm running that account. What else do we got here? So similarly speaking, this is what I was talking about earlier with Jalen Hurts, right? So you had Jalen Hurts plus 102 on the interception, Mahomes at minus 120. Basically, we'll look at the full interception market afterwards, and then we can decide what we want to do there. What's the recipe to a huge pass completion for the Chiefs? It would be Marquez Valdes-Scantling over the top, or they turn a screenplay into something huge. It's a pretty big number here, I think, just based off of the amount of time Mahomes is going to have in the pocket. So lean to under here, but I don't think there's a rush to play this. You could potentially wait till the game time on this one as well. And that's it really for Mahomes. I don't want to mess around with his rush attempts. Typically, if it was another game, I mean, I don't really want to mess around with anything to do with Patrick Mahomes rushing at this point. Let's keep it going. Penalty props. Okay, so I'm down on the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to scroll up in a second because I know that the first thing is going to be what's the first penalty of the game. I'm going to just try to guess the odds, but I think the most likely scenario would be a false start followed by an offensive holding. So if those are priced any differently than that, then we fire. Okay, so they have holding priced a little bit higher than false start. So I mean, plus 145 though. So plus 145 is 40.8%, 41%. 41% of the time, first penalty is going to be a false start. I should have broke this down a little bit more. More likely to be on, I mean, there's not as much crowd noise though, right? During the game on both sides. So maybe it is right on the holding side of things. This is one that I kind of just want to throw a dart to make it fun. No penalty enforced in the game. Yeah, good luck with that in 2023 NFL. Maybe it swings towards the defense a little bit more and that they're like a little bit hyped. Now I'm going down narrative street. Jeff says Eagles fans will be heard. I agree, but like there's just not enough of them. There's just not enough. Okay, before I get into the next market here, let me take a few questions. Any insight on the anthem, or did Warren ruin it again? I think that the anthem is going to come in right around 2 minutes. Take that for what it's worth. Around 2 minutes. That's where I think it will be. What do you think about over or under 10 penalties for the game? Think that's about right. Will game go to OT? Yes. Is lower than other years. Any thoughts? Spread of the game has something to do with that, right? Now, I'm not saying like it's substantially different. Like we've had obviously many years where the spread has been sub 3, but like last year it was Rams 4 in that game. It's just correlated to the spread of the game. Yeah, Super Bowl anthem time got steamed down from 127.5. There's probably a reason that it got steamed down from that at this point. Yeah, 120 seconds is probably a pretty decent guess for what's going to happen. Is Juju healthy? Didn't appear on the final injury report. Seems that he is for that as well. Thoughts on Edward Hilaire anytime touchdown market? So my friend Sam Panayotовich at SP Shoot on Twitter, he texted me earlier this week saying he was going to play Edwards Hilaire anytime touchdown. I think he played 9-1 or 10-1. I don't hate that. Like, again, it's just like, I just don't really know how he's going to be featured in this game, if at all. I do know the Chiefs are obsessed with him for some reason or another. And I think that they've really found the duo that works for them in Pacheco or McKinnon. So if it were me, I wouldn't be going heavy Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. But for variance purposes, I can see it. I like this. Under 43.5 minus 115. Jeff's in the chat right now. Jeff Feinberg last year. Still stewing over getting burned on the longest TD last year on which should have been offensive pass interference on T. Higgins. Is Mama Pizzola making pizza today? Yes, minus 200. I will bet the no for all I have. No, Mama Pizzola is not making pizza today. We are making pizza in the Pizzola household here, though, today for the game. All right, let's move on. Let's keep it going. Been talking to myself for a long time. A long time. Poor Jeff. Has to endure the Chargers and getting scummed by the refs. Tough life. Let's see what we got under the quarterbacks comparison props. Any quarterback to throw for 400 or more yards. Don't think I'm getting enough to take the yes there. Yeah, I think that it's very likely that Mahomes has more completions and attempts than Hurts, but no, I'm not going to lay those prices there. So nothing that really stands out to me from the quarterback comparison stuff. Quarters props, Quez Watkins props. Let me see what they have on same game parlays. These pre-made ones. Okay, so someone's got to get in on the chat here. I have to think the likelihood of Rob Gronkowski making this destiny kick is super high. Like, what is this, a 25? How long is this field goal? Destiny kick length. I need to know right now before I make it out. Okay, it's 25 yards. This is many years ago when I was in college. I used to go to the University of Toronto, Mississauga campus, Arundel, where the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL would practice. And the nice thing about going to that school was I could go out to all the Argos practices and watch them. And they had a kicker named Noel Prefontaine, who was a really, really good guy. And if you wanted to kick field goals with him, you could kick field goals with him. So I'd be out there kicking field goals with Prefontaine. 25-yard field goal for someone who is consistently practicing field goals is very simple. I'm not going to say like I'm an NFL kicker and I'm going to go out and hit 40 yarders or a 25-yard field goal. You just have to look at the ball. And if you have decent form, you're going to kick that field goal. What is the likelihood that Gronk has been practicing this field goal? I have to, Gronk to me is like a party guy. He's a little bit aloof, but this is the Super Bowl. I don't think this guy wants to go out and embarrass himself and shank a field goal, a 25-yarder. The guy has probably been practicing this a lot. 25-yarder, I'd be more inclined to just take one of these same game parlays with whatever team you like to win the game, rather than betting the team on the money line. Gronk is going to make this field goal. Am I an idiot? It's off a T2. Oh my God! I don't know. Maybe I'm just out to look. Maybe Gronk has partied too much in Arizona, and his head's not in it. But that has to be a good bet. Gronk's good. This guy's a professional athlete. I'm a guy that's 170 pounds soaking wet. When I went to university, I weighed even less than that. I played soccer, not at an elite level or anything like that. He's a professional athlete. He probably has gotten all the coaching imaginable. It's gotten all the coaching imaginable. I think that's a good bet. Cream corn, don't worry. I mean, listen, you did say you will have to probably wait till September to see my handsome face on Sunday mornings. Yes, but I will be doing a lot of content during NFL offseason as well. Maybe not on Sunday mornings. That's probably not the prime time to do it. And believe me, people, I am not finally tuned. Definitely not tuned. All right, let's keep it going out of the same game parlays. Time of first score. I don't want to mess around with this. I mean, this one kind of was calling my name for a little bit. Give me one of those Eagles or Chiefs 19 play drives before they score, but no. Kelsey, you're just curious to see where his totals are at now. 78.5. I think that probably still has room to go higher. Am I going to be the guy that takes a Travis Kelce under ticket? I just might be the idiot that does that. That would be right at game time, though. Various comparison props. Okay. First turnover of the game will be fumble, interception, no turnovers. There is significant pass rushes, so fumble is more live than it might seem or might be in other games. Last play of game, quarterback rush, so that's whether they kneel or not. Nothing that stands out there. This used to be the one. This is like the one that your friends will look at every Super Bowl and be like, will either team score 3? They think the odds are flipped there here. They don't really understand the amount of times that a team will score 3 times in a row, especially when you consider the half breaks up the two, breaks up the quarters as well. It's always funny whenever my friends see this every year and they fire on the no because they think it's a valuable bet. It's not usually. Obviously dependent on the odds. Will the game go to overtime? So no, minus 1,500. That was referenced in the chat earlier. Will there be a safety or overtime? Okay. I mean, now we're getting into the territory of another suitcase bet over here. Minus 700. 87.5%. It's probably a valuable bet there as well. That's probably a valuable one. Boy, man, that would suck. Successful 2-point conversion. So, like, what's the likelihood that you have a mixed extra point? Because that would lead to possibility of going for 2 later, or just coaches being aggressive, especially Sirianni. I would hope for a little bit of a better price on yes there. So nothing overall here. Various total props. These are the combined stuff. Okay, so we'll find combined interceptions here, which is what I wanted to look for. Okay. Longest touchdown. So lots of people, again, on the under 41.5 that I would consider long-term winning bettors that played it in and around this price range. The largest lead by either team will be over 14.5, minus 121. I'm actually surprised that that's favored. I think under 14.5 plus money, I would flip these numbers personally. There's lots of scenarios where this is a blowout, by the way. Just because the game is virtually a pick'em doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of scenarios where this is a blowout. But this seems either team extending by 2 touchdowns being. It's interesting, Randy, that it flipped. So you got the game day money on the over there. I don't agree with that personally. I don't agree with that at all. I didn't play anything third down conversions related. Okay, so this used to be one of my favorite bets, total number of players to have a passing attempt. Man, they have these are just getting adjusted pretty heavily in that now. I'm not going down. I'm not going down on this one at plus 104. No, needs to be higher than that. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Total pass interceptions by both teams. I think this over is a valuable bet. Over 1.5 plus 116. Again, this is related to the pass rush in this game. I lean to sacks under, interceptions over, because I think that these quarterbacks are throwing the ball. But this sacks number got blasted. This was minus 125 earlier this week. I don't think you could really chase at this point anymore on here. But this one is a good bet, I think. Over 1.5 interceptions plus 116. Finally, let's end it off here with the warm-up props. I got nothing on Zach Pascal. Oh, the warm-up props. Well, you know what? At least they're only dealing 2 cents on heads and tails. I mean, there's some books that are egregious at minus 115 both sides. And not only are they, it's fine if you want to do minus 115 both sides. You're a sports book. If someone's dumb enough to bet minus 115 on a coin toss, then fine, take it. But they were actually limiting the amount that could be bet on the coin toss at minus 115, which is the worst bookmaking ever. I mean, I think either you go low vig, take out the vig completely, or go low vig on coin toss, or you go high vig and give people whatever limits they want. All right. I think that's it. I went through pretty much all the prop markets that are offered, which is like, we're talking a lot of props here. I'll hang around for a minute or two. If anyone else wants to go, if anyone else wants any questions or any opinions on anything. You know what? Like, Randy, you're probably watching the Super Bowl with other people, right? Around you. I know a lot of times people just want to cheer together, and that's why they go out and they all bet the coin toss the same way. But just bet against your friend and save yourself the vig. Rihanna props. This is not true. I do have Diamonds to be the last song, which honestly, I know, listen, this is not you guys see the t-shirts I usually wear on these videos and stuff like that. I'm not discriminating in any way, but I don't listen to Rihanna. Whenever Diamonds comes on, like, I don't even know what that song, I don't even know if I won or lost. I'm going to need my wife to tell me if I won or lost that bet. But that's all I have on the Super Bowl halftime show. Nothing else. What food are you serving? Please, I would never dare. Listen, I'm a huge fan of oysters. I like oysters. Who's serving a ton of seafood on Super Bowl Sunday? Like, I love seafood. I eat seafood 3-4 times a week. But, like, I don't want the whole house to smell like fish while people are over here. I don't want anyone to get sick off of oysters. Like, the chances that happens, these people are insane. Like, I can't even believe I got into an argument with people about this week. What I am serving prior to the game, I am serving chicken wings. Prior to the game. People are showing up around 5. I got to do Ben Carey's Capwise stream at 5 o'clock. I'll head down, eat some wings. That way I can wash my hands thoroughly. If you are if you're a real bettor and you're live betting through the game, you cannot be eating wings during the game. People are like, oh, you haven't mastered the one-hand technique. I don't only want the drumsticks either. Sometimes you need 2 hands for like the little, the other ones. I don't want to get my phone dirty and not like have to, wipe my hands every time I need to open my phone and live bet. Like, these people are insane, certifiably insane. Pizza and wings prior to the game. Most people don't want to eat during the game anyways. We're getting started early during the game. Some charcuterie stuff, some chips, some dips. A little bit easier to manage for the hands. We got the Hammer crew coming over to my place today. It's going to be a live betting party. All right? What am I drinking today? I can't even believe that I have to admit this. I've been taking antibiotics for a finger infection because I bite my nails very frequently and my thumb got infected. It's looking a little better now, but it was in bad shape earlier. No drinking for the pizza man today. It is going to be the first sober Super Bowl in about 20 years. Very, very, very sad. Cross sport props I like. I mentioned one of these last night. It got pulled from DraftKings, but it was related to, I took the goals in the Golden Knights Ducks afternoon game plus 145 versus total punts in the game. I just thought that was mispriced. It probably still loses, but it should be like plus 115. How many bets do I have on the game? I don't know. Right now, probably like 60. It'll probably be over 100 by game time. My best bet prop that I gave out earlier this week was Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown score, which was at a different price. It was plus 110 at the time, which has moved Still like it though, like I mentioned earlier, up to minus 120. Other Chiefs pass catchers, Watson, Gray, Moore. Any thoughts? I'm highest on Noah Gray of the bunch. I think he's a sneaky, decent upside guy today. Like, he's not going to get 6 targets or something like that, but anytime touchdown, I think, is on the table with him. Sky Moore, yes, but like, I was more into Sky Moore when Kadarius Toney's injury looked a lot worse than it is now. I don't like to bet this no shit, like a no flea flicker minus 290. No, like, I honestly, like, if this is a regular season game, this no flea flicker would be minus 2,900, let alone minus 290. Super Bowl, different story. I don't like it for this particular game, personally. Suma's getting the hot dogs going. God bless. Suma wants to celebrate the Super Bowl like a true American. Corn dogs, whatever else he's doing in Dusseldorf over there. Hope he has a good Super Bowl. I mean, that's fine. Hot dogs for Super Bowl? Like, sure. These guys know. Got to have your hands ready for live betting. Yeah, some people pointing out bet boosts at sports books. Like, there's a lot of good ones today. The other ones are called flats. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, guys. I mean, it goes without saying, Matt, this is the only option today. It's the only option. I need this to heal, people. Like, I understand that this sounds soft. If you have not experienced a finger infection before around the fingernail, it fucking sucks. It sucks. It's just a lot of pressure in your hand. Don't bite I gotta stop biting my nails. It's brutal. It's brutal. The funny thing is, I can't even tell if this is a joke or not. Will Andy Reid eat cheeseburger before end the Super Bowl broadcast? I would say that there's probably value in the no here. I'd be surprised but who knows? Who knows? All right, people. Appreciate it. Again, if you're in Ontario, the last hour or so, I walked you through why Pinnacle's a great book. Tons of options. A lot of them are low vig options. I mean, let's again, I just want to, let's get the main market up to see if we've moved since the beginning. Okay, we take the scent towards the Chiefs here since the beginning. You're never going to have issues getting limited at Pinnacle. Use it if you're in Ontario. I highly suggest it. It's sad. This is it for the season broadcasts. So what's coming up? Like I mentioned, forward progress. This is an NFL betting channel. The NFL season is over. Doesn't mean we're going to stop betting on the NFL or stop covering it. There's going to be a lot to come over the next couple months leading up to the draft. Lots of draft coverage. Then we'll start to get into some early season previews over the course of the summer. When future markets open, we'll cover that. We will be doing more stuff. So subscribe to Forward Progress. I promise we keep this going all year round. And if you can support the rest of the Hammer HQ on this Forward Progress YouTube channel, just click on channels. You will see the rest of the channels that fall under the Hammer HQ umbrella. Hammer HQ, where we do live watch-alongs for games. Hit the books. College basketball, college football. We got March Madness coming up there. Edgework, daily NHL show. By the way, Edgework is like the most absurd ROI right now. It's by far the best hockey show on the planet. This is not an exaggeration. Stuff is tracked in real time on Betstamp. The ROI is through the roof. Even if you're not a hockey bettor, you can become a hockey bettor. Edgework is great. The Board NBA, where we have a daily show, pick and roll with Pips. Pips moves the prop markets. You're going to get valuable bets out of that show. Period. Other stuff across the board on the Hammer HQ. So please support the content. Like and subscribe if you can. Allows us to keep it going, even through the off season. It's big for us. Everyone, stay safe. Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously, enjoy yourself. Do whatever you're going to do, but stay safe. And of course, last time, bet responsibly. If you're with friends for the Super Bowl or just betting for the first time, probably a good idea to educate them in whatever way you can about problem gaming and just making sure that this is done for entertainment purposes only. All right. Just make sure that's done for everyone else. Sean L. Don't even watch hockey, but watch Edgework and Tail for the ROI. Thank you very much for your support. Everyone, enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. Tell your friends about the Hammer HQ, Hammer Betting Network. This has been the Pizza Buffet, presented by Pinnacle Sportsbook here on the Hammer Betting Network. Everyone, peace out. Enjoy the day.